Internal Revenue Service IRS tax news. Important things all extension filers should remember. IRS Tax Tip 2020-106, August 20th, 2020. October 15 is almost here. That's the last day to file for most people who requested an extension for their 2019 tax return. So if you're following all these deadlines, which has been an interesting task this year, we had the tax returns for 2019 typically due in April 15th, but then it was extended to July 15th. So the due date was on July 15th, and then the question was, well, what about the extensions? Because usually you can file the extension by the April 15th deadline that takes it out to October. And so what happens if we file the extension in July 15th? Well, it still takes it out to October. So October is kind of like the normal date for the extensions, even though there was an extended due date for the original filing for the 2019 tax return. So if you put your return on extension, then you have until October still at this point in time, and that's coming up shortly to do that. Remember, when you do put yourself on extension, the IRS still expects to have the payments to be there. You're really avoiding or trying to avoid penalties and interest related to late filing with the extension process. Back to the text. These taxpayers can file anytime before Thursday, October 15th, if they have all their required tax documents. They can also pay part or all of their taxes anytime on IRS.gov. The IRS is ready there to receive payments, like anytime you want to give it to them. They got a lot of ways you can pay them on IRS.gov. Here are some key reminders for extension filers. Use IRS Free File. Nearly everyone can e-file their tax return for free using IRS Free File. There's a link to IRS Free File here. The program is available on IRS.gov now through October 15th. E-filing is easy, safe, and the most accurate way for people to file their taxes. File to get a refund. Anyone due a refund should file as soon as possible and use direct deposit to get their tax refund electronically deposited for free into their financial account. So if you're getting a refund, remember, if you're getting a refund, obviously you probably want it sooner. And so the IRS thinks to get it sooner, you can give them the direct deposit, and that'll be the fastest way they can do it. If you have the paper return, they're still kind of taking more time on the paper return, and they're kind of trying to push away from that, or the paper checks. So if you want a paper check, then they're going to take more time typically to be processing those due to COVID-19 and just basically the natural move away. Now, if you're paying the IRS, then they also want you to be doing so with the electronic payments if possible, which is the easiest thing to do, but you may not be as concerned with the IRS, cashing their money as soon as possible in that case. So you might send in a paper check, and it doesn't matter if it takes them a while to process it, as long as you get it in time, so that you don't get any interest and penalties for the payment. Okay, back to the text. There is no penalty for filing a late return for people who are due a tax refund, and that's something people often get confused about. So note that the IRS basically sees if you were owed money and you didn't pay the IRS, and they see it, you basically loaned the IRS money. So you shouldn't have really penalties and interest related to the fact that you overpaid, right? If you underpaid, then they're going to charge you interest and penalties because they feel like they loaned you money that way, and they feel like they should charge interest and penalties on it. But if you are due a refund, they're not going to charge you interest and penalties on the fact that you basically loaned them money for a certain time period. So, okay. Pay tax balance as soon as possible. The deadline to pay 2019 income taxes was July 15, 2020. Taxpayers can check their account. There's a link to check their account here. Balance or view payment options. There's a link to that here online. Those who owe and can't pay their balance in full should pay as much as possible. Can reduce interest and penalties for late payment. So, of course, that's the goal. Why are you paying on time? Why are you paying before you do the tax return? Why are you paying during the year when you're going to file the tax returns in the following year? Because you're trying to avoid interest and penalties. So pay taxes online for free from a checking or saving account with IRS Direct Pay. File by the deadline to avoid penalties and interest. Taxpayers should file by Thursday, October 15, 2020 to avoid failure to file penalty. What taxpayers should do about a missed deadline. Anyone who did not request an extension by this year's July 15th deadline should file and pay as soon as possible. This will stop additional interest and penalties from adding up. So again, the deadline was July 15th. We should have filed an extension if we can. If you file the extension, you get till October 15th, although the extension is only going to help you out with the penalties related to the late filing. They're not going to help out with the payment penalties. And so if you didn't file an extension, then you want to file as soon as possible, because the IRS basically sees it as late, and that means that you'll have interest and penalties. If you did file the extension, you have until October 15th, but you still need to pay the payments on time as soon as possible, because the interest and penalties will accumulate. If you are owed money back, then you don't have to worry about that particular situation, because the IRS will not be penalizing you for, again, giving them kind of like a loan. So more time for the military. Members of the military and others serving in combat zone, there's a link to members of the military and combat zone here, get more time to file. These taxpayers typically have until at least 180 days after they leave the combat zone to both file returns and pay any taxes due. So good benefit of people in combat zones. And thank you for being in combat zones. You get a tax extension so that you could file a little bit later once you get back. So, and there's a link to some of those. Obviously, military members have some differences in the tax code here. So you want to make sure that you're checking those items out on the IRS website and talking to tax professionals who have understanding with them. So there'll be a link to this in the description.